So we had an extra day. Celebrate Memorial Day, obviously. So a lot of action goes on during the weekend. Try to squeeze in a bunch of stuff. And every year it's the Indianapolis 500 where it gets better and better and faster. This year they're going, what about average 213 to 216 miles an hour per lap?
Yes.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I've been there for the time trials. When I was in the minor leagues, we used to always seem to be there when they were doing the time trials. And get to watch them, and you see it in the blink of an eye. You see them at one end of the track. They blow by you. They actually did a nice job with the camera work. Did you see that? Where they were just going, and they go by so fast. But the noise level is intense. Whether you've been in a NASCAR race, which Kurt worked for 20 years in NASCAR, or you've been to a Formula One or open wheel racing where it's just so unbelievably loud. It's still incredible to know that the men and women who are driving those cars are fearless, because in the blink of an eye things can change, and it did. There was an accident where
a couple times.
a couple of accidents, but one where the wheel went over the stands, and had that hit the stands, it would have caused many fatalities and injuries. And thank God it didn't. But that just shows you in a real time sense that there's really no control. As much safety measures, and we saw one car flip upside down and skid down the racetrack and stuff, and they had an in-camera footage of it, and the sparks are flying, and the driver is helpless because he's just got to wait for it to come to an end.
Kirkwood.
Yeah, Kyle Kirkwood, and wasn't his fault at all. He was just driving around trying to avoid an oncoming car, and a car that was already spinning out and spun into him and caused an unbelievable wreck. But part of his car went over the stand. So your thought, Kurt, on basically, the risks of just being a fan of the 300,000 people that were in attendance.
Well, you have a different animal when you deal with open wheel, because when the wheels collect to each other, that's when you get that launch. And you've seen those cars go up in the air and go just absolutely crazy.
So for people who haven't seen it, it's just one car was coming into another. One was going opposite direction. Both wheels touch. The wheel just gets launched over towards the grandstands.
And breaks off.
Yeah.
And loses the tether from the other. Basically, the front end must have severed the tether.
Right.
So the tethers are fabric. They're not like a steel. But that is meant for a reason. They made it readdress that idea.
Is that weight? Is that a weight situation? Why is it?
I don't know. Well, with NASCAR, we did them, and they were always. I'm not sure why they chose that, but they've always want that kind of plastic. It's fiberglass ribbons,
right?
So that it can't just break at once. It's got to really fail all those different threads. So. That's what they were going for. I'm not sure if they'll revisit the idea. I think I would.
Penske's going to look into it. Roger Penske, IndyCar owner, and the officials investigate.
Owns the track.
Yeah, he led to the wheel coming loose in the crash of the Indianapolis 500, sailing over the fence. Here is the quote from Penske. "We haven't had a wheel come off in a long time. We were very fortunate we didn't have a bad accident," end quote. That's so true. I mean, if you see this live and you just know how much are those wheels weighing, Kurt?
They're pretty light. Well, just the tire itself is probably going to be 100 pounds.
That was going
But it's a projectile now.
At about, 100 mile an hour?
No, 200 miles an hour.
Well, it started at 200.
Yeah, it started at 200, and so even if it was slowed down to 150, it's still...
Let's take your head off.
Take your head off. It would destroy any human being. Dozens of people had gone into the stands, probably would have been killed.
It goes right over the stands. Yep. Like on a cata-corner, kind of, if you're in baseball, it just missed the foul pole by about a foot. And
fortunately, there are two different sections of stands, so there's a gap in those stands, and that's where it went.
Well, and let me ask you this, though, because over the years and going back, you and I, I always watch a lot of these different crashes going back to the 1900s, and, the safety measures have improved to where the cars have improved, the tracks have improved, just to be able to take the impact of cars into them used to be different.
Well, simply put, everything has happened. All these things that have happened over the 100 couple of years now of the Indianapolis 500.
I was just watching video from 1955.
Right.
And the reason why the driver died there, Vukovic, he launched over the stands, and he hit. Back then, you were able to park your cars right behind the stands,
right?
And he hit the cars, and that's what killed him. But cars, going back probably about 30 years to where then they curved the fences to try to make sure that, especially at Indy, to make sure the cars stay in and don't go over the fences, because that had happened.
Of car,
right? Or even pieces of car. So now there's really probably no way, even netting wouldn't have stopped that tire.
No. I mean, it would have to be some serious netting, and then
would be cost prohibitive.
It would be cost prohibitive and viewership.
Yeah, people want to see it. That was the biggest complaint in baseball. That until a girl was killed in Columbus by a hockey puck, people in Major League Baseball didn't want to put the netting all the way down to the foul poles. And then eventually a fan was struck and hurt so badly, I think it was a little girl, that they were like, okay, we got to rethink this. Voluntarily, a few teams did it, and then it became mandatory when Rob Manfred was forced to do it. But, again,
after everybody did it, I think like 28 teams did it out of the 30, and then Manfred goes, oh, yeah, let's add that. Mandatory.
And so in racing, though, you couldn't do it track to track, could you? Because it would cost too much.
But the other side of it, you can't do nothing if you had a situation like that. You can't turn around and go, yep, bad thing, thoughts and prayers.
The one thing I'll say, though, with Kirkwood being upside down, I don't think anyone survives that before this millennium. I think that's a totally different story without the innovations that have been made in the last 20 years to have that be as safe as it was for him. The tire was so fortunate. I mean, that was just pure luck, miracle. If you believe in whatever, I think somebody was looking out for a lot of people in that situation.
Absolutely.
That's happened. That happens at dirt tracks on Saturday. 1998 MIS. I just got that brought up to me.
I think I'd go a bit further back as far as the age of what you're saying with that thought. I think I would add like another decade. Rick Mears in the early 90s, that was a bad wreck, and he was upside down, and that was fine. And then there was a couple. There was a bunch. Scott Brayton was one. That was scary, but that was a split. The cockpit split down low, and you see the man's feet.
But the one thing is, for the driver, he knows.
Yeah, you signed up for it.
The fan did not.
No.
And
I'm going to watch this stuff.
It was so fortunate the way it ended up. And geez, so glad that no one in those stands got touched by that tire, because it could have been something serious. But this is something that happens in racing.
Well, that was the first thing that I thought of was, where did that go?
Yeah.
Where did that go? It was scary.
Well, I'd like to know. All right, so the last time I'm reading this was a kart series that 3 fans were killed, 6 others wounded by flying debris, Michigan Speedway in Brooklyn. That was 1998.
That's MIS.
I wonder what happened after that, because like you said, whether it's NASCAR or whether it's Indy-style cars, the cars are going 230 now.
Right.
On a
They'll
regular
always
basis.
add a little bit more. You're going to add some fence, and you're going to curve it in, and you're going to see what else you got.
Great race. Can I say that at the end of this conversation? I think it is a great race. I'm super happy for the winner that won.
I mean, fortunately, we're talking about this instead of that. We're not talking about the finish of that race if it goes.
No, and Josef Newgarden, who had tried it about a dozen times and lost, futile efforts, and he finally won it. I don't even think he really. I mean, it's great that he got $3.6 million to get the payout, but. His life is forever changed to be put on that trophy of the Indy 500.
He'll be doing interviews for the rest of his life every time it comes up.
He's an Indy 500 champion from this day forward. That is amazing.
It was amazing. It really was amazing. The technology, the speed, and what we're doing out there now it's crazy. It's crazy how fast they're going. They're daredevils, man. They are action hero daredevils in those rocket ships. Driving them 220.
Now, I did see a lot of social media complaints where the way IndyCar is acting, that's almost as bad as NASCAR with the red flags. But I'm like, at least they raced to the end.
Absolutely, it should be that finish.
Just like 4 laps of
caution.
Of caution laps, and then here's the flag.
Let me
Standing
ask
order.
you this, because we looked it up. Cars are now between $400,000 and $600,000 a piece, and
Yeah, that was your first question on the week.
I thought there were more. But
I didn't have a way to quantify what the actual cost is.
what I
because you
wanted
have
to ask you about, just one little thing going wrong can knock them out of a race.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's a part of the engine, whether it's a part of the steering, things like that, because these are such finely tuned things. I mean, you're looking at, it's like the cockpit of a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Explain what's going on. And then at the end of the race, they can just pop the wheel out and jump out. It blows my mind. But when they get in there, it is state of the art.
It's amazing that they can pop off that steering wheel that disconnects in order to get in and out of the car. If you look at that steering wheel, it is video game land, folks.
Yeah, dude, it's got all kinds of stuff going on it.
You can change the brake bias from the front to the back. You can change the
awesome.
No, the guy, that's what he's doing. He's changing how the car's driving while he's driving it.
The rate of the spring. The rate of the spring. Not just the give of the spring in the front and the back, but the rate that it recompresses after it hits. You can change that on your steering wheel. You can change your fuel mix.
I would be so afraid, because it does come off so easily, that I would bump the button that releases it, and I'm going 200 now. I have my steering wheel on.
Dude, they're in there too, and that's like a cockpit of a jet fighter. I mean, they're literally scrunched down in there. So if they do wreck, even though they could probably survive, they get crushed.
You would not be able to fit.
I would not be able to fit. I've tried to fit. In fact, we were out at Lime Rock, and I tried to get in that one. There's no way.
You got in. It took you a while to get out.
Listen, I've been in an F-16. I don't ever want to be back. I don't want to say I'm claustrophobic. I hate MRIs. I don't want to be shoved into one of those things. I would like to go that fast in a car. I've been very fast in a car, but what's it like to go 200 in a car?
I don't know.
You don't know? I mean, I've been in some of my cars fast. I don't know if I've ever been that fast.
Can't imagine.
But this is a sustained amount of time.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing.
Easier?
No, it's harder, because physically these guys are battling the car the whole time. Now, the NASCARs are bigger and heavier, correct?
Right.
And so they're
it's not as many
battling that
Gs.
car. And these guys aren't big. The bigger you are, if you're my size, that's against you to have that much extra weight. Like they used to complain, Danica Patrick, it was an advantage for her to be 120 pounds, 115 pounds.
For sure.
So talk about that as well. I mean, just even the weight of the driver, that goes against some of these cars, the way they're made.
Well, in some cars, as the lighter cars you go, you usually weigh the whole thing when you're doing the technical inspection. You have the car and the driver together. That is not the case in IndyCar, and it's not the case in NASCAR. Now, she'll have an advantage in NASCAR, but the car's 3,500 pounds, so who cares about it?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
So these cars are, take 1,500 pounds away from a NASCAR car, and that's what we're dealing with. So, yeah, 100 pounds will make a difference.
But you guys are still you mentioned G's just a second ago. Like, you're forgetting the internal stuff that's going on inside your body. Now, you know me. I'm going to be throwing up right about turn 2, first lap. I'll be throwing up.
So think about this. If, say the wall was wide enough to where you could drive a car on it, they're driving fast enough to where they would stay up.
Right.
That's how fast in the lateral G's you're getting.
The one guy that bumps the wall a little bit, corrects himself, but still he's going so fast, he's still just a slight squirrely spun out. Because just that little squirreliness when you're going,
and then he's out of alignment.
And what's the bank? The whole track is banked too.
But only a little bit.
Really? But some of the NASCAR tracks are
some
even
of the NASCAR
worse.
like 31 degrees at Daytona.
Exactly. So think about that. Now you're on a bankment going around.
We're talking like 12 degrees at Indy. It's not that much. It's a little bank.
But
So-
Indy, if you've
That's
never
how crazy it
been
is.
to an Indy car race or Indianapolis 500, I recommend it. It's an amazing place to just watch something like that. It's an event, not just a car race.
I do love all the camera angles that we get nowadays and the technology and the broadcasting, but when we go cockpit on any race, it does not do it justice. It almost like eliminates the speed and the fear and the inertia of it all, and it makes it feel like more of a video game where I'm just looking through the windshield and just turning right, turning left when I need to. No, man, like there is a whole situation going on in your brain, in your guts, and there's too much going on to even really portray it on television or anywhere what these guys are going for. They're on 200 mile an hour. 200 mile an hour.
Well, in Formula One, when you do the chicane, you go left, right, left. They call that the neck snapper.
Oh my God! So congratulations,
hurts.
Joseph Newgarden.
Congratulations,
that was
man.
fantastic.
That
All right,
was-
we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk some more NBA with the first dibs question of the day. It's the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Thank you so much for tuning in.